Alright, so I'm doing something a little different right now. I'm actually converting a HP Pavilion DV9000 into a more or less a desktop. This is the original case I made, and I'm going to more or less keep it exactly the same. But as you can tell, there's only one USB port where I can actually put two USB ports in the front. I don't really have a place for the LED since that really never came for fruition. I gotta replace the power supply. This is where the actual back of the computer was. There's where the hard drive bay was. I mean, more or less you can see what the thing looked like. I mean, it's simple, it's ugly, but I just need something. I just need a simple computer to upload YouTube to my fish channel and occasionally my shitty ass APP channel. So what I'm doing is I'm rebuilding the standoff. So I'm going one extra popsicle stick high. And I'm also going to pop apart pop off the big old copper heatsink here and actually replace the thermal pads with the actual thermal paste, because initially this thing got really hot inside there, and I was like, and when I was building this thing initially, I knew it was going to be hot. I just didn't know it was going to be hot enough to where it would actually melt the hot glue off the off everything and make everything get loose. So hopefully the next go around when I rebuild this thing, next go around, and I'll be able to fix it by just having actual thermal paste on these little connection points. Though I think the only place I really can have a thermal pad, thermal pad with the stay is right there. I think that's the GPU. I don't know. I'm gonna go in here and see if I can put some thermal paste on some of these components. Oh yeah, and if you're wondering, this laptop here is from '06. It has a dual-core CPU, 3 gigs of RAM. This right here is where the SSD goes. This thing actually has the ability to have an extra hard disk. But for right now, I'm not going to have an extra hard disk because this thing's only going to be used for uploading YouTube videos. So I really don't need that much of a storage. 64 gigs is more than enough. Well, actually, technically, I have 30 gigs left over, so 3 gigs is more than enough. Though I like to have a little bit more of a buffer room, but what are you going to do? Let's see. This thing also has a NVIDIA GeForce Go 7000, I believe. Yeah, it's that freaking old. So I'll come back when I see fit. Alright, so here are the 3 chipsets. This right here is the NVIDIA GPU for my camera autofocus. Here's some other chipset. I don't know what this is exactly, but it has a heatsink over it. This little portion here actually has the thermal pad on it, so I'm not going to do any modifications. And of course, there's the actual CPU core. One of the nice things about a laptop like this is you can do this with the actual core. You can actually take a look at it. See, nope, I was right. I had the other way. As you can tell, it's dated copyright. Oh, that's out. That's totally wrong. Copyright of yeah, that's right. I was just misreading it. It's copyright of '09. So this is an '09 dual core processor. And I can go in there and I can pop this core out and place a new one in there if I ever so chose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back in its socket. Thermal paste here. Thermal paste on this. I'm going to leave this alone because it has a thermal pad. The one thing that I find really weird is that the actual GPU heatsink is individual is its own separate system. Basically the way this computer is set up is that most of the heat gets expelled right here because this is the CPU, because this is the main CPU and whatever this little chipset right here is. And then there's another little hole right here that is specific for the GPU right here. So me popping this apart is a good thing because now I know how I'm going to have to rebuild the case for this thing, because I'm going to make it some extra holes that way so the GPU portion can actually properly cool. So I actually found that to be pretty interesting. And of course, here's the actual copper heatsink and whatnot. And of course, these wires go to the little on-off switch right here. And as far as I know, this piece right here is an actual thermal indicator. So I'm not going to go and modify this little section right here. I'm just going to keep this ugly wire here and just have it go all the way to the front of the computer so I can turn the thing on and off. So once I get the thermal pad, not thermal pad, but thermal paste and everything set up on this computer, I'll come back. Or probably when I see fit. I'll probably come back when I go to test this thing and see if it'll boot properly. In theory, it should. Alright, so here's the actual laptop. I got everything set up, got the new thermal pads in. I've even used a zip tie to hold the heatsink on. So I don't know how hot this thing's going to get when it just idles, but it might still get pretty hot. So I plugged it in. As you can tell, I got a little blue light. I plugged it in, no puff of smoke, so that's a good thing. And I forgot to plug in the HDMI cable to the HDMI port because I'm an idiot. I guess I got a long cable. Alright. Blue light, so that's good. Couple blue lights, so that's good. Cooler fan spinned up. It's doing the initialization. Since this thing is an old laptop, it's freaking out since it doesn't have all the stuff it'll normally check when it boots. So normally this thing will boot pretty quickly. But since this thing doesn't have the keyboard, mouse, display, all the other stuff that basically makes this thing a laptop, the whole BIOS on this thing is freaking out, trying to figure out if I should just boot or if I should just continue checking crap. It's going to continue doing this for 15 minutes or so. Sorry, not 15 minutes, like 15, 30 seconds, upwards of a minute sometimes. And then it'll boot up. You know what? Oh yeah, actually what's going on right now is it's going through the little option of do I want to run the thing normally or do I want to boot it into safe mode or whatever, because I just pulled the power on this thing without actually doing anything. So there it goes. And as you can tell, everything booted up without any problems. Now the hard drive that's inside this thing is actually from this desktop here that I'm using this to replace. This thing here has a quad-core processor, 6 gigs of RAM, and a 750 Ti. And for something that I'm just using to upload YouTube videos with, this thing is overkill. And it's also noisy. This thing does make noise, but it's nothing like this. This is a jet engine compared to this just being a hum. Or like one of those old shitty Priuses with a little 4-banger running. As you can tell, the whole thing booted up without any problems. Seems like the thermal paste is doing its job. The cooler fan's not spinning up at max speed, so replacing the thermal paste was one of the good things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut this thing off, figure out a few more things, and then build the actual case around it. So everything's more or less working or like it should be. I thought I'd just pop in to show one other thing I'm actually going to be adding into this rebuild. The DVD drive. I actually had this portion in the original, but since it really didn't close correctly and open correctly, I'm also going to be refiguring out how exactly I'm going to build the shroud around this. But I'm going to put this in the system that way, so I can actually have the ability to actually plop in a DVD, CD, or whatever when I need to. I don't need to that often because almost everything I get now is digitally downloaded. But there are times when I will have to use a DVD drive, DVD burner, or whatnot. Mainly for reinstalling OS, installing GTA 5, which I actually had to do every now and then on this thing. And I had to pull out the old portable DVD drive and do it that way. So actually having one that's built into the computer is more than what I wanted, which is definitely what I want to do. So I just got to build some simple standoffs that way so I can just stick it on here without having to just putting so much weight on there and probably busting off the actual header here. But let's see. Before I close this thing off, I also want to show how the actual hard drives are connected. They're actually connected via a I gotta retouch that again. Via this little connector piece right here. Basically, this goes into the SATA port of a little SSD or laptop drive, and then these little pins here connect to the pin header right here, and as you can tell, it's more or less plain as day. But yeah, you can definitely see how old this thing is because there's no newer laptop out there that needs something like this to plug into the hard drive to actually get it to work. So yeah, I'm really working with some old technology. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot to bring in the actual hard disk, the actual SSD I'm using. This thing has a little LED light right here. That is because it has a mini USB port right here. So I can actually use this thing as an actual internal hard drive, or I could actually use this thing as a backup drive, like a standard old flash drive or whatever, just by plugging into here. See, do I have that little cable? Yes, I do actually. So let's see. Just like that. Then just take the other end, plug it into the computer. And as you can tell, there's everything, well, not everything, but that's a lot of the stuff that is required. Well, actually, probably that is everything. That is on this hard disk required to run SSD, required to run Windows 7. This laptop most likely can run 10, but I really hate that truck. But I really hate Windows 10. The joys of the part of the country I live in. Ugh. Can't tell you how annoying those godforsaken diesel pickup trucks are. So ungodly annoying. And again, it's what? 6:30 a.m. I should technically be asleep, but I'm not. I've been up since 6 p.m. yesterday, so my sleep schedule's kind of screwed up. But still, that truck's ungodly annoying. Even when I have a proper sleep schedule, and it comes back around like what 5 p.m. Makes a whole bunch of racket. Ugh. Well, I'm gonna go get all our little components figured out, and then I'll build the thing, and I'll come back when I see fit. Thought I'd stop by or pop in with the one other piece. This right here is the Wi-Fi card. So one thing is that the actual screws that the actual standoffs that the screws screw into to hold the Wi-Fi card down, they're actually in the laptop chassis. So what I ended up doing was, again, using zip ties. So what else do I gotta modify? Well, one thing I gotta modify is this little motherboard right here. This little motherboard has 3 LEDs, well technically 4, but 3 I really need. One of these is power, hard drive, and charge, and I guess you can say the thing's plugged in or not. But yeah. I need these 3 LEDs that way in the front, that way so I can see what the thing's doing. I'm going to take a look at the chassis of the laptop to figure out what LEDs does what. That way so I can properly align the LEDs in the way I want. because I want power on to be at the very top, hard drive to be in the middle, and if the thing's plugged in and charging or whatever, which it actually won't be charging at all because I won't be using a battery in this thing since the battery's shot. I want to have that one at the very bottom or towards the back. I don't know yet. Especially considering this thing already has a LED in the actual nozzle, in the actual little power plug right here to let me know the thing's plugged in and getting power. Oh yeah, and also this right here is for turning the Wi-Fi on and off. This is like I said, this is how old this thing really is. So let's, and probably one other thing, I probably got it, oh yeah, and I got to, where is it? Here's something Apple doesn't have now. Headphone jack. Actually 3 to be precise. One of these is an actual headphone jack, another one is a mic, and another one is something else. And of course, I don't know which is which. And this thing also has an IR blaster, believe it or not. So I got basically take each individual wire, lengthen it by at least a foot or two. Actually, yeah, by at least 2 feet. That way, so I can extend this from the actual socket right here all the way to the very front of the computer. That way, so if I want to plug a headphone in or whatever, I can do so. This thing does have a Bluetooth receiver and whatnot built inside the actual, well, not built inside, but this thing does have Bluetooth. But I don't like Bluetooth. It constantly disconnects, even on the newer devices. So yeah, I'm also going to have to elongate this thing somehow and make it to where I can actually make it so I can actually plop the thing in the front. Though I don't think I'm going to actually have the IR blaster showing because I don't know what this thing can be used for. Or I don't have anything that would actually work with it. But yeah. Seriously, Apple, what a dumb move by removing the headphone jack. One of the reasons why I'm going to get, when I go to upgrade again, excluding if I get my mom's iPhone 7, the next phone I will get myself will most likely be an Android phone because Apple, you're stupid. Alright, so here's that little board I was talking about. Luckily, it looks like the actual, well actually, I don't know what this one actually does. I think, well actually, yeah, like I said, I gotta read the, gotta look at the panel again, but this one right here is a hard drive indicator. This right here is a switch for the Wi-Fi. So as you can tell, it's blue right now, but once I flip it, it turns red, and or orange, and that basically means the Wi-Fi card's turned off. So I always want to have the Wi-Fi turned on, so I'm going to go in there and hot glue this thing to make sure when it's on, or that way so it always stays in the on position. And I also noticed that there's an LED here. I think there's another one on the very bottom. Okay, I was mistaken. There's an actual LED internal on the board. You actually don't see this LED when you're actually using the computer. This LED here is internal. I don't know why they actually placed it there, but they placed it there. So what I gotta do is I gotta basically look at these. I already know this one here is a hard drive, so I know I want this one. And then I gotta more or less put the thing together. Is there anything else I really want to talk about? I'm pretty sure someone wants to see what the actual Wi-Fi antennas for this thing looks like. This is more or less what the Wi-Fi antennas look like for this thing. Like I said, this thing is incredibly old. And of course the Wi-Fi works. And it gets everyone in my neighborhood too. Actually, it's not that bad. Yeah, everything seems to be in full functioning order and whatnot. Still gotta load this thing up with a few of my basic stuff I put on here. But yeah, the computer's in full working order. Alright, so it's now about around 9 a.m. I'm getting pretty sleepy, and I'm about to call it for today, and actually go to bed and finish this thing up tomorrow or later today when I wake up, depending on when I wake up. So as you can tell, I got it all pretty much situated, excluding this end and this, because I still gotta modify these two components. But I got all the other stuff when it comes to the Wi-Fi and everything else, CD drive, the two USB ports. I actually had to have this little card in here to get this port to work, which is one of those weird oddball things. Got all the little pretty much just stress testing this thing, seeing how it handles. I currently have a YouTube video up running at 1080, not 1080p, but 720p. It is dropping frames, but it's not dropping as much as I thought. So let's see how many frames this has dropped since I've started playing. That's for nerds. It's only dropped 22 frames out of 14,000. And that is really good considering how ancient of a computer this is. Actually, let's see. I'll close it out of there and I'll actually see if I can actually bring up the actual specs of this thing. Okay, it's an Intel Core 2, basically a dual-core CPU, clocked at 2 GHz, 3 gigs of RAM, running Windows 7 64-bit. I don't see me upgrading the RAM on this thing, and I really don't need that much RAM, considering I'm not going to be gaming on this thing, so... Of course, if I go to Device Manager, and I go to Display Adapter, actually, I think I'm right. I don't remember. It's been a while since I actually gave out what type of GPU this is, but this is an old GPU. That gets the job done. Yeah, thing's warm, but unlike last time, this thing isn't lifting isn't lifting off the board like off the mat like it was on the original. When the original one got hot, all the hot glue for the for standoffs, they would basically detach, and the whole thing was just moving inside the frame, inside the actual body. So I'm really hoping that the fact that I added actual true thermal paste to the actual parts of this thing that actually could really use it will help with the heat distribution. That way, so all the heat will just get chucked out the top here. And of course, on both sides of the board, of the case, I have holes that'll that'll line up more or less correctly with the holes for the CPU cooler right here. That way, so the fan will be able to just directly get air directly from from cool air and just chuck it out the top. And of course, here's the power supply. The little power plug. I was originally thinking of trying to put it either here or here, but since there's a little nub right here that I don't feel safe cutting off, I just decided to keep it up at the top. And like I said, since this thing's only just going to be for uploading simple YouTube videos, it's going to be behind my computer. It's going to be behind my TV. So it's going to be a lot thinner and I'm going to have a lot more room to place stuff with this thing instead of just if I was going to use this bulky piece of junk. Well, this is not a piece of junk, but it's big, it's noisy, and I just need something simple and low power for a simple task. And my iPhone is running low on battery. But with that, I'm thinking I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna shut this thing down, pull it, and just finish it off tomorrow. Finish it off when I wake up. Alright, so here's version 2. I'm about to close it all up. I thought I'd show the thing off before I actually close it up. But I got all USB ports on there. I actually have the power and hard drive indicator plugged LEDs in. The actual DVD drive now easily pops out. On-off switch right here. A little USB port there. Power. Cooler vent, as you can tell. I've actually braced the actual main portion of the cooler that way, so whenever this thing is spinning and trying to get cool air and whatnot, it's actually only getting fresh new cool air, not taking in taking in hot air that's already inside the case. So hopefully this will help with the heat distribution, or hopefully it won't get as hot. And as you can tell, here's the back. I initially was actually going to individually cut out each I/O port, but since there's so many actual ports on here, I just decided just to have just a open little area right here. Hopefully this will be enough to allow the GPU to cool off. My cat wants out of my room apparently, so let me go fix that. Or she wants to go back in my closet again. That cat is incredibly stupid. And that's pretty much it. I mean, the thing's ready to be closed up. I put a little bit more effort in the back here for cooling, but overall this thing's good to go. Oh yeah, and I even have the audio jacks right here. Not really else much to show. I mean, it's just a simple modified laptop. So I'm going to cover this thing up and get it up and running. Alright, so here it is set up behind my TV like I had it on the first build. Though this one's a lot more nicer. It's replacing this old monstrosity. I keep remembering I actually got to press and hold it for like about a second for it to actually boot properly. Like I said, the computer is from 06. Now since this thing doesn't have a actual display on it, it takes a little while. Once it gets to like the welcome screen, then it'll actually display something. This thing is still trying to display stuff to the internal display that's not there anymore. And as you can tell, the computer is turned on, and I can do whatever I want now. I can upload YouTube videos more or less with this thing, because that's what I built this thing for, is to just simply upload YouTube videos. I don't need 2 USB ports in the front, and I don't need the DVD drive, but I added them in because they were there, and I thought, why not? And unlike the original one, the actual DVD drive fully pops out, and I can easily close it without any problems. And believe it or not, there will be times when I'll need this. And of course I have the actual power on button here, or the power LED, let me know that thing's on. And of course right here is a hard drive indication light. And of course you can also see the main power on LED right there, so I also got that. And of course I have this LED here, let me know that the thing's getting power through the wall socket. And apparently I gotta restart it even though I don't have to. Stupid Windows 7. At least it's not freaking Windows 10. So with that said, pretty simplistic build. Took a little while longer than I was hoping, but I just need something to upload simple YouTube videos with, and this will do the job. And I think my iPhone has a dead pixel. That sucks.